You're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson, episode 124. Hey there, you're listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast. My name is Angela Henderson, and on this show, we talk about improving your business, life, or both by having amazing and rich conversations with brilliant guests who will inspire you and who will give you tips and tricks to help you grow both in life and in business. Well, hey there, and welcome back to another awesome episode of the Business and Life Conversations podcast. I'm your host, Ange, from Angela Henderson Consulting, where I'm an international award-winning business consultant and coach who has helped thousands of amazing women business owners get all the pieces in place to have consistent 5-figure months and then on to 6- and 7-figure years without burning out in the process. When I first started in business, I used to think that passive income was hard to make. I was reading the books, I was watching the webinars, I was trying so hard to figure out how the hell could I make money while I sleep. What I realized, though, is that A, passive income isn't nearly as hard as I originally believed it to be, and B, there are different types of passive income models that I can include in my business model. You see, we're lucky that as small business owners and entrepreneurs, we get to decide what we do, how we want to earn, and how much we want to earn. And what I love the most is that we can earn more than any way that we used to be able to back in the olden days, and without compromising on our sleep, our family vacations, and on our sanity. Passive income is one way to help your business grow, and I'm super excited to have my friend Melissa Lanz on the podcast today. Why? Because she built an 8-figure business with passive income, and she's going to share with us today what is passive income, what's the difference between passive income and recurring revenue, what types of passive income are there, what are the benefits of having passive income in the business, what are the top things people need to do now to prepare themselves for passive income. She's also going to give us some examples of passive income, what systems we need for passive income, and what is the fastest way to success with a recurring revenue model. As always, it's going to be a brilliant episode. But before we hop into today's amazing episode, I'd like to remind you that this episode is sponsored by my Action Takers Mastermind for Women in Business. Applications are now open for 20 amazing women in business to join me for my 12-month online and in-person experience designed to get your business to the next level, whatever that looks like for you. The Action Takers Mastermind helps business owners like you to get clarity on where to put your focus, genuine information on what's possible, what works and what's a waste of time, helpful feedback on your ideas, your sales strategy, etc., perspective on your skills and talents that we need to work on or outsource, introductions to new clients, and legs up to new opportunities, and so much more. During the 12 months, you'll get strategy sessions with me, emergency calls with me, hot seat calls, implementation and co-working sessions, 12-month access to our private Facebook community, access to the other mentors that I bring on. I've got 11 other mentors that you can access. 2 live events at the Gold Coast, quote unquote, if COVID allows it. If not, we will have those virtual. Sounding like my 12-month Action Takers Mastermind might be what you need to get your business to the next level, then head to angelahenderson.com.au and click on Mastermind on the menu bar to apply for one of the 20 spots. Now let's get into this amazing episode with Melissa. Welcome to the show, Melissa.
Hey.
Hey, how are you? So excited. I mean, we get the opportunity to chat regularly lately, and that's because, I feel like we've known each other forever, but the reality of it is we've only met each other over the last few months in a mutual mastermind we're in. And, there's something powerful about masterminds. And I know we're going to get into passive income and all that today, but I'd be curious to know, like for you, for example, how much has investing in your business and things like masterminds helped to put you on the trajectory to where you're at today?
Oh, I mean, there's no way that I could have reached the level of my business if I hadn't invested in myself. I've probably over the last 10 years invested around 250, 300,000 in coaching, masterminds, coursework. And I think that it's the first time that I invested in it, the first time I ever got a coach, within 3 months, my revenue had increased 3x. Mm-hmm. So it was kind of then when I realized that, trying to hustle and do it yourself and doesn't give you all of the tools, right? You're like dealing with a toolbox and you've got like a hammer and a couple of nails. But when you start to get a coach, then you get new tools. And then when you go into a mastermind and you're leveraging other people's experience and knowledge and stories about business and their expertise, now you have a full toolbox. So I think it's a mix between your own knowledge and talents, getting a mentor or a coach, and then having a peer group and that's, maybe led by something in a mastermind. And I think that that is a complete toolbox for business as far as being able to scale.
I love that you mentioned that it's a toolbox, Melissa, because I've just opened applications for my next round of my own mastermind, Action Takers Mastermind. I'm getting quite a few amazing applications in, but some of the common questions that I'm finding is pretty much like, well, if I join the mastermind, it's a guarantee that I will 3x, 10x my business. But here's the thing, you use the word toolkit. It is still up to us as the business owner to take action or don't take action. We are still responsible 100%. For the success of our business. But I think there's this, story, and I don't know who out on the internet is saying about it, but just because you hire a coach or get in a mastermind does not mean that you're going to be successful. It's still on you. What are your thoughts about that?
I mean, that's exactly on point with why I always use building my toolkit, because if I don't use the tools, right? If I don't use the advice of my coach, if I don't integrate some of the learnings from other people in my mastermind, then I'm getting tools and I'm not using them, right? So you can't build a foundation by looking at the tools in your toolbox, right? It's like, that's just not fair. You can't look at them and be like, oh, I'm going to, put the floorboards in today. It's like, no, you have to build a foundation by having the right tools and using them consistently with efficiency. Yeah. I think that a lot of people think that going into, a mastermind or working with a coach is kind of like absolving them of doing the work. Yes. And I've never seen it that way. It's like, no, it's there to help you do the work so that you can get it done. For me, it's an accelerator. Mm-hmm. For me, I know, we both know a lot of really smart women that, left to their own devices, given enough time, can get something done. Mm-hmm. But for me, working with a coach or being in a mastermind is an accelerator for me, because I can go faster with more resources and more knowledge and more access to information. Mm-hmm. And I think that is the thing. Like, why do I want to spend 3 years doing it when my revenue depends on it? Right. Mm-hmm. I want to learn how to do it in a shorter amount of time so I can increase my revenue and then move on to the next thing that will increase my revenue. And then the next thing that will increase my revenue. So yeah, you still have to put the work in, but I believe, like, when I don't know how to do something, I go out there and I look for either a mastermind group, a peer group, or a coaching group that will teach me how to do it. And I'm in 2 masterminds right now. Mm-hmm. So I have one that's about, planning and forecasting and doing that. And then the other one is all about funnel building, because the coaches in those masterminds, that's what they do. Right. And those are things that I want to increase my knowledge and my capabilities and my expertise in those. So I couldn't get to where I am in business without that, type of thing. Because school by itself doesn't get you there.
Dude, no. And Googling and YouTubing definitely doesn't. And the other thing is it's just that you use the word accelerate. And I definitely think that is a key part of doing it. Is not only will you move quicker, but you're gaining time back to be with your family, to create memories. You're being more efficient, right? Your team can come on board. You're not wasting money. So, I mean, they're just a cattle of things. Now, I know we're not here to talk about masterminds, but again, it's the power of a mastermind, right? Is that yes. I spend anywhere between 40 and 60K a year on masterminds, coaching and learning, because I'm all about just tell me how to do it right the first time so I can just go. Do you know what I mean? I don't want to try and then do a Band-Aid effect, because I actually end up spending more money doing a Band-Aid effect than if I just paid it up the first time, right? And that might mean that you do have to put something on credit card, right? I'm not going and encouraging people to go into debt, but sometimes you've got to potentially lay out a little bit of money in order to reap the rewards to be able to 10x, 3x your business. So, it's all about the mindset and choices that we get to make. Now, before we jump into today's episode, where we are talking about, passive income and what that looks like, whenever I bring a guest on the show, I always like to ask a fun question so the audience gets to know you a little bit more. And I know you and your family have a love of travel, and obviously COVID has kind of stunted that for all of us this year. But I know you love traveling, so I'd love for you to share with us your all-time favorite travel spot and why.
Oh, that's easy for me. Botswana.
Oh, why?
In Africa is hands down my favorite place. I've been to Africa a few times. And when I went to Botswana, when my feet, I got off, you take these little planes everywhere in Africa once you and when, my flip-flops hit the ground, I took my, shoes off, and there was this feeling that I got. I don't know. It was like coming home. It was so amazing. And then every single person that I met in Botswana was just this human being that was just rich in generosity and spirit and information and knowledge about the land. It's really a place that people are very in touch with, the earth itself. And I loved it. Any chance I have to go back to Africa as a whole, but to Botswana specifically, I fell in love. I've never felt so at home and comforted as I did when I was in that country.
And how long were you there for?
That trip, I was in Africa for 3 weeks and in Botswana for a week and a half.
Oh my. And so again, there's something about traveling that fills the soul. And again, those smells, the people, the stories, there's so much richness when you travel, in my opinion. It's one of the things too, is just as much as I spend on masterminds, I probably spend on travel. And it's one of the things that I always say that if I passed away tomorrow, it's actually written in my will that for the people, our family that would take Finley and Chloe, I always say it's like, you are to travel every year.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I won't be here to see if it happens or not, but I'm like, it's a non-negotiable for me. Is it just
we wrote it into our trust. Mm-hmm. So I have 2 boys and they're teenagers, and we actually wrote it into our family trust that it says they get particular money to do things, right? They don't just get a payout. And one of the things that they get on an annual basis is a travel stipend, but they have to use it for travel. Yeah. So, and my boys, like I took them all around the world and took them out of school for 4 years when they were in elementary. Mm-hmm. And so my boys have been to 5 continents and they have traveled all over the world with me. So I believe it. I believe in it. And it's made them global citizens. And I couldn't be happier about that.
100%. I think there's an element of, for me, seeing in the kids, there's an element of kindness that comes with them, right? And I think they also think about, like we were in Fiji once and there was a man sitting under this beautiful palm tree and he was there early in the morning and he remained there all day. And they said, Mom, he's still smiling. Why is he still smiling? And I said, buddy, what's there not to smile about? Look where we're at. He's like, but he hasn't done anything. I said, no, your perception is he hasn't done anything today, but maybe he's happy just being. And so my little one, he's got ADHD like me. And he's like, oh, I'll have to let my brain think about that one for a minute, Mom. But, it's just about being able to have those conversations with the kids, right? I just think it gives opportunity for them to reflect on their own space and what that looks like. And another time we were in, was it Vietnam? Yeah, Vietnam. And we were playing with some of the local kids and they only had 1 ball. And there was like, I don't know, there would have been about 50, 60 kids. And he's like, Mom, they're happy just with 1 ball and they're sharing. I'm like, yeah. I said, what do you think that means? He's like, I've got a lot of balls and I don't like to share. And I was like, he's like, yeah, maybe I should share a little bit more. And I said, maybe that's what we need to work on. So the beauty of travel. Now that we got Botswana is your favorite place, you've got 2 beautiful boys and we love masterminds. Can you share with the audience a little bit about your business journey so far? Where did it start and where are you today?
Yeah. So, I was in corporate and I was an interactive director, like for international. I would go in and I would launch software for marketing departments all over the world. Mm-hmm. And it was extremely grueling and 60, 70-hour weeks nonstop because my teams lived all over the world. So I would be up and working a lot. Mm-hmm. And I burnt out. And I decided to leave my very profitable job, and I didn't have a safety net. But I knew that I wanted to live more creatively, and quite frankly, my husband had a talk with me and said, "I really don't like you anymore. So something has to give." So it was kind of either like my job or my husband, and I adore my husband, so I quit my job. Yep. And then I spent 6 months trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I really wanted to merge my knowledge from my business experience, which was with online and building software and digital products, and my passion, which was cooking. I'm a trained chef. I trained when I was in my early 20s to be a chef, and my family. So I wanted to kind of put these things together. And I think anybody that's starting a business or wanting to grow a business, I think you start from where you know first, because it's what you're able to offer and share and teach the best. And so I created a product called the Fresh 20, which is a meal planning service that is for unprocessed food, where you shop with only 20 ingredients, and then you prep, and then you cook weeknight dinners, all using these 20 ingredients. So it was really this idea of merging together, right? This consolidating what I knew to be true in business, what I wanted out of my life, which was to do something more meaningful for my family, and my talent, which was cooking and recipe development and always finding something to eat, even in an empty refrigerator. So I did all of those things. And I started with a list of, I did the product development and concept, and I was a one-man show. I started at my kitchen table with $2,500. That was the most that my husband was like, he didn't really get it at first.
Yeah.
So he was like, okay, I'm willing to lose $2,500 was basically the conversation that we had. And so I started with $2,500, and I did kind of everything in the business. And I started with a list of 400 emails, and that was every single person in my family, all of my, the schoolmates' parents from school, from, first grade, and any person that I had met at a networking event, like in the previous year.
Yep.
So it was a list of 400 people. I launched the site April 23rd, 2010. I sent out an email to the 400 people, and I was like, I'm open for business, and here's what I'm doing. And I got 23 signups from that first single email.
So good.
And from there, it was a lot of, coddling customers, making them feel good, referrals, like going out to conferences and speaking and finding partners to share content with and everything. So from there, we grew. We've had over 150,000 households buy our subscriptions, and over the last 10 years, and it's grown into a business. We've our revenue had passed 8 figures at the beginning of this year. Not a year, but past the 8-figure mark, where over the last 10 years we've generated over 8 figures. We do pass the 7-figure mark in a year, but yeah, it was kind of like I just held my breath and sat down and did the work and learned how to do what I didn't know how to do, used what I did know how to do. And people ask me the number one thing that I think attributed to the success of the company, and I truly believe it's because I didn't even consider failing. Like I didn't even it wasn't even like I didn't think to myself, oh, maybe this won't work out. I just thought if I just keep putting one foot in front of the other consistently, then I will outlast people. I will keep going, and eventually it will grow, because I'll keep making mistakes and then using the information from those mistakes to make it better. And that's just what I kept doing. Just put stuff out there, learn, improve it, learn, improve. So that was the process.
And I think, again, I know consistency is a word that gets thrown around often, right? Consistency, being persistent, whatever word you want to choose. But the reality of it is if you keep showing up, you're going to continue to be there. And when other people aren't showing up, right? And you are going to little by little, bypass other people, and they're going to get, worn and torn. And it doesn't mean that we too don't have those days or those moments. But the thing is, it's like you said, I too have never looked at either of my businesses as failure as an option. It was like, we will find it out. Again, I'm with you, is what I don't look at the mistakes or failures. It's like, what were the lessons I needed to get me to that next level? I would then assess, and it all comes down to also testing. And I think patience is also key. So many people that I hop on with discovery calls and into some of my Facebook group are always like, they want the quick fixes, Melissa. They're
like, I've been doing it for 6 months. Why isn't it working?
I know. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, but in 6 months, you've been able to launch this, you've got your branding, you've got your messaging, and you actually have paying clients. That's more than what a lot of people have in a year and 18 months, right? And so I just have to remind people that it's patience, right?
It's patience.
You can't jump the steps, and there's certain things, and each of us have different pathways based on our own business and our personalities and our family, and it's okay to go slow, and it's also okay to speed up when you need to.
Yeah, I think in consistency is an stated word, but it's underutilized, because I know that it's a huge problem for entrepreneurs to just stay consistent, keep doing what they were, because what tends to happen is they get frustrated and then they switch courses because they're like, okay, this isn't working. I'm going down this path and I don't like what I'm seeing. So I'm going to switch to something else. And that's just like starting all over again. So I think sometimes perseverance is important to pair with consistency.
100%. Now, passive income. Obviously, yes, my friend, you got where you have because passive income has played a big role of this for you eventually, right?
I'm all about it. We're all
about the passive income. Now, and again, passive income, I think, is a word on the internet anyways, that it's getting thrown around. It gets thrown around in Facebook groups. It gets thrown around on podcasts. It gets and that's okay because it's a beautiful thing, let's be honest. But just for the purpose of this particular episode and how we're addressing passive income, can you just help me in the audience define what is passive income to you?
Yes. So there's two kind of incomes that I love. It's passive and recurring, right? Passive income is you do work on the upfront, right? So you do something, whether maybe let's just take course creation for digital entrepreneurs. You create a course upfront and that course reaps dividends after the work is done, right? So it's this idea of it's passive income because you're not trading your time for money, right? You're spending time in the beginning and you're creating something and then you're putting it up for sale and it can be making money 24/7, right? Which is very different than having a group coaching program where you have to be coaching and answering questions and being active in a Facebook. That's not passive income, right? Because you are actively participating in the delivery of the business. But passive income is, let's say passive income could be a blog, right? You're writing your blog and maybe you're writing it anyway, but so that is your active thing and you might be doing sponsorships and things like that. But advertising on your blog is passive because you don't have to do anything extra. You're putting something on there. And then, so that's like another type of passive income. There's, and then recurring revenue is a little different. Recurring revenue is like you're creating a revenue stream that is predictable, which means that you're accepting money and charging money like at a consistent interval of like a week or a month or a quarter or a year. Right. So in that scenario, my core business, the Fresh 20, is a recurring revenue model. But because now it wasn't passive in the beginning for me, but now that I have a team, it's passive income in the respect that I don't have to generate the content, right? So now it's a passive recurring income stream for me. So it means that I'm not working on the actual product. I have a team that does that. And it's recurring because once I have a little bit of data about my company, I can predict what my income is going to be in 3 months. I can predict what my income is going to be in a year because it's recurring and people are paying it. And once I know there's a few data points, which we can talk about, then I know what it is. The risk of passive income is that you do put all your time upfront, right? That you build something and then nobody buys it and you've spent your time and your resources in doing it. But the nice part about it is that typically on a lot of different passive income fronts, there's a low barrier to entry for people doing it, right? Because you're creating things that are a little bit smaller. Typically passive income are for products that, are between $5 and $500, right? Those can be very passive. People don't expect anybody live to show up necessarily. So that's kind of, in a nutshell.
But again, one of the things that I do want to talk about is, like, I know some of the women in my Profit Pillars Accelerated 12-month program, what they often talk about is, well, Ange, I want to start a membership. And I'm like, brilliant. Let's hash this out, right? And they'll be like, well, such and such entrepreneur, I won't name names, said that I can start a membership and that I can make 10K a month. And I was like, you can eventually probably make 10K a month. I believe in you. Your product's great. It's sound. And though lists aren't everything, I look at what is your overall, how many people do you have in your overall audience? Because we still need to get you visible. We still need to market you, and we still need to be able to sell this on a regular basis. And they're like, oh, I've got 100 people on Instagram. Okay. I've got 50 people on my newsletter. Okay. And as we know with yourself, you don't need a huge list, but you do need people to sell this to. And so what I talk about sometimes when people are wanting just to jump right into the passive income, right, is the risk there is that, again, if you aren't constantly at the same time as launching, and getting this out there, continuing to build your list and your audience, is eventually those other people that you are selling to are going to get sick of hearing about it. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to be really strategic about how you're launching something, right? So let's think about it in terms of having something like a tiny offer to make passive income. So I actually know this was happening to one of my peers. She made a tiny offer. She made 6 figures on her tiny offer. It was like a $37 fitness product. Yep. And it was a great product, but it just kind of wildfire blew up without a lot of, she didn't really build a list. She didn't really she didn't have any of the foundation, right? So she didn't have all the tools in her toolkit that she needed to make it sustainable. So she had to go back at that point, and because she didn't have a system for marketing. So instead of marketing and taking on that, she decided, well, I'm just going to have to keep making products for the people that bought the first one.
Right.
Because then she was like, and now she's frustrated because she's like, I'm on my 5th product in 6 months because they just want new material. They just want new stuff. And so you have to be really careful about making sure that you have a strategy across the board for how you're going to grow, because while you can get somebody to buy something once, right, and there's no end to a market that you can sell that to, if you don't have like a customer ascension model, or you don't have a path for your customer to follow, and you're like a one product wonder, it's going to lead you to a road where you're going to have some work in front of you. So I think it's important to definitely figure out. I always suggest that people start with content marketing on the upfront, and that they start their content money. They start talking about their industry. They start talking about all of the different lifestyles that are attached to what they're going to sell. They start doing their social media and talking about it and building up an audience that they're creating an environment for before they even start launching, to that audience, and really having an idea about, okay, when somebody's done with this, what's the next step for them? Where do they go? So that you're not reacting. I think that's the thing. It's like, if you're constantly reacting and putting out fires, and you'll get exhausted, right?
Totally, and it's not uncommon, right? Because again, it's like, and there's also this adrenaline that I think comes with creating something new, right? Again, so many entrepreneurs, let's be honest, get distracted. Do you mean shiny object? Again, a lot of us do have ADHD running through our bloods, right? So it's quite easy for us to go, whoa, great, I get to create a new product. And then we get halfway in and we're like, oh, what am I doing? Right? Like, why am I doing this again? Right. And so again, I'm with you. It's all about making sure that you've got the strategy and the clarity around why, what's the next thing that they can do, because not everyone will want to be in your membership forever. Right. They'll be looking for the next thing. Right. And it doesn't always have to be 50 things, because I also think people overdevelop and overcompensate, leaving audiences more confused than they were when they first started.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And I think it's interesting. Like, I'm always trying to delineate between a subscription model and a membership model, because I think people get the two things like very mixed up. A subscription model is something where someone is paying you, let's say, a monthly fee. So they're either getting, digital access, let's say like the New York Times, or they're getting access to the Peloton app, or they're getting, like for the Fresh 20, they're getting access to the unprocessed meal plans. That's a subscription model, right? So that model is about the content. A subscription model is about the digital assets or the offline assets. Like even Amazon Prime is a subscription model, or, AAA. I don't know what you guys call it over there, but we have like an automobile club. That's a subscription model. Meal kits are a subscription model. That's a subscription model. Membership, right, is something where someone is accessing, people or resources or something beyond just the pure digital information, right? So a membership would be something like that's leader led, like that has somebody that's leading the discussions or the information. A membership would be something. AAA goes into both, because you can be AAA, you're a membership. They do have some subscription aspects to it, but also when you're a member, you get discounts to things. You get, you get different benefits for being a member. You have different resources for being a member. And I just think that it's really important to know the difference, because both handle content and product development a little bit different. And I believe that in the membership model right now, people are looking for less kind of not canned information, but they're listening for less static information. And they're looking for memberships that include more live conversations and more guidance and more access to real-time information and Q&A, right? I think I see that as being something that's really shifting right now. So sometimes people come to me and they want to create something and they're like, I want to create a subscription. And I'm like, but your subscription can only last 6 months because you don't have anything to offer after that. Like it's not a subscription product, and it's not a membership because you don't want to give them access to you or resources or anything. So what you really have is a course, right? It's like a one-time purchase. And I think people try to stuff things into the wrong categories because they hear everybody else doing it and think that that's the right thing to do.
And I think that's the thing is so often people are wanting to do what everyone's telling them to do. And I think regardless, I know with my clients, and I'm like, what is it that you want to do? What is it that actually lights you up when you're going to deliver this? What brings you joy? What's going to keep you showing up? What's going to keep your clients happy? And a lot of times they're like, oh, scratch that idea, right? Because they've been told that they should do one, they should do a subscription, or they should do a membership, or they should do a course, because that's what's going to make them millions. But they're forgetting about the key factor about what lights them up. Because if you're just, in my opinion, if you're just chasing the dollar, it's going to get you so far. No questions about it. But eventually you're going to get tired. And that's going to come up through your frequency and your vibrations and everything else that you start to put out to the world. So again, regardless of what you want to do and what you want to create, make sure you're doing it with joy. Because if not, you're going to end up in bigger problems.
100%. And I think, you're right. Like people pick the business model first and then try and figure it out. Right. And I think that you should pick what you want to do, what you want to share, what you want to teach, what you want to offer. I think you should pick that first, what does light you up and what you would do for free anyway. Right. And then I think you should pick a business model, the best business model that suits that thing. Right. And I see people doing it backwards all the time, and it takes them twice as long and they spend twice as much money because they started with the business model first. And I think that that's a mistake.
Yep. And I see it over and over again, right? Or it's like they'll come to me, well, I've been doing this for this, doing it for this long. And I'm like, okay, are you happy? No. And then they're like, oh, you mean I need to go back and create more content? I was like, you don't have to do anything. But what you're saying is you actually hate your life right now. So either what do you want to do? Keep hating yourself and hating your life, or create something that brings you joy? And they're like, okay, all right, let's roll, So it can be a bit of a hard truth sometimes when I have those conversations, and I never want to dull anyone's candle, but I'm like, their candle's already dull because they're hating life, right? I've just named it for them and been a bit blunt around it.
If you remember where I started when you were asking me about my story, my business story, I didn't start thinking I'm going to build a subscription. Right. I started by saying, okay, what do I know how to do? What do I like to do? What do I want to do? Mm-hmm. And I took all of those things and said, okay, I want to teach families how I wanted to solve a problem for myself. I had a 2 and a 3-year-old at the time, and I wanted to, I guess they were 3 and 4, and I wanted them to eat better and see me eating better. I was eating frozen burritos like at 11 o'clock at night, right? Mm-hmm. And over the sink. And so I wanted to help families live a healthier life and get health through their kitchen and eat unprocessed food and stop going through drive-through. So that's what I wanted to do. And then I wanted to do it through teaching them how to cook with a limited amount of ingredients so they could keep on their budgets. I didn't know when I was thinking about what I wanted to do, which business model it was going to be. Like, I didn't say, after I realized what it was that I wanted to do, I looked at the different business models and I was like, okay, it's not an online course because they have to cook every day, 365 days a year, and we have to eat, right? So it's not an online course. It's not necessarily a membership because I'm not giving them like additional resources and access. There's no like human component to it really. Yep. So it really was a subscription, right? Mm-hmm. Totally. It was a digital information product. So that came about from doing the homework on, like you're saying, what I wanted to do and how I envisioned it. It also was how I wanted to live. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to, one of the things in my corporate job is I had to ask permission to go on vacation, even if it was just like for a long weekend. And I thought that was so crazy. I was making all this money and I couldn't spend it. Yeah. So when I was doing my business, I was like, okay, I knew that I didn't want to have a physical product because I didn't want to be tied down to a warehouse or, an office that I had to be in working with manufacturing or anything like that. And I knew I wanted it to be digital. So you have to think about all like how you envision your business being part of your life. And it was very important to me that I could work from anywhere in the world, like with a laptop or an iPad, and I could still run my business. It was very important to me. And people have come to me over the years and asked me to do meal kits and to do, grocery store meals and things like that. And I have not wanted to do it because it would change the lifestyle that I have wanted for myself and that I've built for myself. So you got to know who you are.
Totally. And that again, and it's okay to stay true to that, right? Like not run from a place of scarcity, because you could be like, oh my God, I'm not doing that. I should people be asking for it. But it's like, you stay true to you. You came from a place of abundance and you're continuing to grow, So now, speaking of growing in these toolkits that we're talking about, I'm curious to know is what would you recommend to the listeners in relation to what systems do they need in their business to start managing that passive income?
So I think the number one thing the first thing that I did was I had a system for product development. So whatever that is, if it's information products or even if it's coaching, to really get organized about the process by which you deliver the information. Because if you're not organized about that, it starts to cause roadblocks and clogs in the system, and then you're delivering stuff late, or it's not great, or it's, there's all of these things. So that's the first thing, is how are you actually going to deliver the information or the product that you're going to do, and create a process around that. So from very early on, like even when it was just me, I had a process by which I would create the meal plans and the information. Everything was stored in a particular place. Everything was named a particular way, so that I kind of laid down a yellow brick road for myself, so that I could then, hand that to somebody else and they would understand how to create it and how to produce it without me having to micromanage. So that was the first thing for me. So I think a process by which you create and deliver your product is very important. Then after that, the next thing that I did was, and the system by which you're going to do that, right? I think minimal viable systems are very important when you're starting out. I know that there's a lot of people ask me about, well, what tools should I get? It doesn't matter what tool you get. You can have, I've had hours long conversation about a piece of software, and everybody will have a different opinion, right? On software, right? You can ask 100 entrepreneurs and all of them are going to have a different opinion on this software or that software. It doesn't matter. You can use any software that you need, right? I always tell people, like, if you're going straight information product and it's not complicated and they don't have to log in anywhere, you can use PayPal and an email. You know what I mean? Like,
amen, sister. You can keep it easy.
Don't overcomplicate it in the beginning, because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't want to buy into and build this intricate system that then 6 months later you find out that, you know, your members or your subscribers or your online course takers aren't even using it, right? So stay really, really lean when you're choosing the systems that you're needing. You're going to need an email system. You're going to need a payment system and a delivery system, whether that's like a WordPress site or, you know, something that where you house your courses like a Teachable or Kajabi or whatever, right? So those are kind of the systems. After you get that kind of in check, then you've got customer service is your next thing, right? I think the system of the process of product development, your system of, you know, delivery and fulfillment, and your customer service are the three things that you need to get started. And having a system of customer service, I recommend getting it very early on, where you get a very simple tool that tracks tickets so that you can kind of be growing a database of FAQs. And I know in the beginning of my business, like the first year, I used an email, and it was such a bad idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I'd lose emails. I wouldn't get them. Like, they would like stack up. I had no way to track them. It was kind of a mess. So that was the first thing that I was like, you know what? I'm delivering a service, and I want to make sure that people feel taken care of and that I don't miss anything. So a system of customer service was really important to me. And it didn't, if I had to start all over again, I would do it from the very first, from the first day I opened.
I mean, I love customer service because I think, again, I don't think the data shows us it's much easier, right? And more cost effective to nurture those people who already bought from us and to acquire a new lead, right?
Yes.
So it's like just nurture them. And I know we've got 3 questions left before we wrap up. So I do want to ask you 3 more things. What do you find it has been what is the fastest path to success with the recurring revenue model?
The fastest path to success with the recurring revenue model. I can honestly say just what we were just talking about, taking care of your people. Yeah. So if someone comes in, and I mean, just imagine it. We all buy from people that make us feel fantastic, right? We buy out of different emotions or different aspirations, right? That's typically why people buy something. They're either inspired to do something, or they're aspiring to learn something or do something. And so if someone entrusts you with their money, and you wow them, and you really make their experience fantastic, guess what? They're telling everybody else about it. And that's how I grew my business in the first 4 years. I did not place one single advertisement in the first 4 years of my business. I grew on word of mouth because I considered it to be me extending an invitation to them to come into my home, right? And I just had created this different environment as a home, right? But I considered it an invitation, and I took it very seriously, and I wanted them to feel like I was a friend and I was solving their problem, and they could come to me, and so they talked about it everywhere. And so I grew by referral in the first few years of my business, and I hit 7 figures purely based on referral. So I think that to grow your business fast, you have to wow people and take care of them so that they will talk about you everywhere. That is, to me, the fastest way that you can do it. What you don't want to do is spend all your time and energy and money on simple acquisition where they churn and burn, right? Where you get them in, they buy something from you, you don't take care of them, they never come back, and they don't talk about you. That's the worst.
You're just throwing money at a wall. And, I talk often about human-to-human marketing, the experience and interaction one faces with a particular brand. And it is so important that you're having those experiences in the interaction. Most businesses do one or the other, but it's imperative that you can't just be B2B or B2C anymore. Those experiences, interactions is what differentiates you from everyone else. Now, we could talk for hours in regards to passive income streams, membership, subscription models, etc. But for those people, this is, my friend, your zone of genius. For those people who are like, damn, I need a little bit of Melissa in my life to help me with this, where can they find you?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm usually at melissalanz.com. And so whatever I'm up to is usually on that page. I do these. So I'm crazy and I like to get results. And I think you're the same way. Like you measure your success based on the results that other people get. And that's how I do it, because we like to inspire and help other people. So, I run intensives that are these like 8-week intensives where it's like, in 8 weeks, we build out like the entire membership and subscription, and starting with like the offer and like doing every single step of it. So if anyone's like thinking, oh my gosh, like I want to do this quickly, I want to accelerate, and I want to get it done, then I'm definitely your person. And you can just visit me at melissalanz.com. And if you have any questions about membership or you have anything, I'm pretty accessible. You can drop me a line through my website, and I respond to everything that I get.
Yay, dude. Super exciting. And again, if you're ready to bring on that passive income recurring models for 2021, I would strongly encourage you to check out Melissa. She's a wealth of knowledge and just an amazing human. So thanks so much for being on today. I appreciate that. And for the rest of you, just remember that my team and I will also be putting together the show notes for this episode at angelahenderson.com.au. Thanks again, Melissa, for being on today. I know it's a Sunday at time of recording, so I appreciate that. And for the rest of you, have a fabulous day no matter where you are in the world. And I look forward to you joining me again next week for another amazing episode of the Business and Life Conversations podcast. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Business and Life Conversations podcast with Angela Henderson. www.angelahenderson.com.au